Good evening, everybody. Like I just yelled at you all. My name is Jenna Jones, and I'm a therapist here in town. I've rooted counseling and consulting. And so the first thing I want to do tonight is have each member of the panel introduce themselves and share a little bit about what they do. So I guess we're going to do some microphone passing.
My name is Phil Tolbert. I'm the assistant principal at the middle school. I've been there in this position for about 12 years.
Amanda Grotehouse. I'm a school social worker at Jasper Elementary School, and this April will be 5 years.
Hi, I'm Cassidy Nally, assistant principal at Jasper High School, second year at Jasper. I've been in administration, so we're going into my 4th year.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christine Ward. I'm a neurologist for, gosh, how many years now? 13 years now. And I'm also a mom to 4 kiddos.
Hello, Greg Brescher, Jasper Police Department. I am a detective sergeant there. I have been employed with the police department for, it'll be 15 years next month. Thanks for coming out, actually.
I'm actually just going to move with you and then put you on the spot. You ready?
First.
Yes. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask a few general questions, and then I want to leave some time at the end for questions from the audience as well. And that includes kids too, so be thinking about your questions. Okay? First question, in your specific field, what are the biggest challenges you deal with concerning the issue of technology and overuse of it?
Everybody uses technology, adults, children. Obviously in my role, I am investigating criminal acts, okay? Everybody does everything with cell phones, so they can make criminal acts with cell phones. So technology changes every day. As soon as we figure it out, there's something new to learn. So it's ever-changing. It's a disaster. I don't know. I mean, this video that we saw didn't really go into the criminal side of what cell phones are doing this day and age. It's more of the mental side and the behaviors that the kids are coming into. So if we want to get into some of the criminal stuff, I don't know, that might be a question later on. Right, okay. But it is a disaster to try to figure out all these apps and all the way people communicate and following it back to the originator and everything. So it is a challenge we face, but we try as hard as we can.
Okay, I think the question I was looking at some of the things we see and that we're struggling with from the high school standpoint. I know I work alongside law enforcement when we're getting reports of various things. It can range from sexual exploitation. So what we're seeing on social media, solicitors trying to get information from students regarding, that's bugging me, so I'm gonna turn it off. Getting information, trying to create false accounts from students. Can you guys hear me okay? I can be loud. I coached before I was an administrator. So getting information from students. So sexual exploitation is a concern. We work with law enforcement to try to figure out the false accounts that students are creating through numerous apps. They'll create different identities, different accounts through different social media platforms to try to exploit, to try to victimize other students. Okay, so that is one thing that we're seeing. We're also seeing students that are highly addicted to technology. I have incidences with students where simple task, okay? Our policy is put your cell phones in the caddies during instruction time. There's some leisure in between passing periods, some leisure at lunch. During instruction time, expectation is phones are in caddy, phones are put away, we're learning. We have really hard time getting students to comply. We have students coming with multiple cell phones to try to boycott our system, so they will try to bring in phones that are not working, to put those in caddies, to throw off teachers so they can have access to their devices. I've had situations where cell phones have been brought to the office and students will not allow me to keep the cell phones, threatening to go home, or just won't give the cell phone to the teacher. There's been incidences where the students just refuse to give their cell phone, and it resulted in out-of-school suspension. Even with some education, they were still adamant that is my device, you don't have ownership, I will keep it here if I want to. So some defiance there. So a lot of that is that addictive attachment they have created with their device. That social identity piece, I can't be disconnected, that sense of belonging that's there. When I'm disconnected, I feel left out. I'll take the risk, I'll take the discipline. So we're seeing a lot of distraction, the impulsivity. I see a lot of that when I'm with students as far as, we had a conversation just with one of the parents, I won't out her because I promised I wouldn't, but we were talking about the impulsivity. When we used to have conflict with our peers, at least me, I'm a little older here, we'd have to sit and think about it, okay? Write a letter, go talk to them, that human connective piece of having to process what we're going to say. When you're sending a snap message, you don't have to do that. That you can say it right then without a lot of thinking and without a lot of processing. So it's that immediate gratification, that impulsive reaction. You hurt me, so I'm going to retaliate and have aggression back on you. And not really having the ability to process that through and what that means and what impact that's going to have on them socially. So again, in addition to what law enforcement said, a lot of that is my job as well, is investigating things, working with law enforcement, getting information, trying to protect kids from a social platform that they're not quite mature enough to protect themselves from.
I would say just in a health-related arena is people really getting addicted or being on games for very long periods of time and neglecting other things that they should be doing regarding their health, like exercising, maintaining good relationships, healthy relationships. Getting enough sleep is a really big deal. And I definitely, I've seen a lot of people that, I'm sure we've all experienced it with something in general, scrolling through Facebook or TikTok or whatever, all the things, or your favorite Candy Crush, whatever it is. You start doing it before you know it, my goodness, it's been an hour, I should have been in bed already, or what have you. But we can see a lot of headaches and things along those lines with these issues. But so that's kind of from my area there. Well, I guess one thing I wanted to throw out there is there is a diagnosis of basically video game addiction, and what happens with that is dopamine is released in your brain for any type of reward or pleasure. And that's how gambling addictions are born, and it's very, very similar actually to gambling addiction, the video game addiction. And it's when you're getting this constant reward and so forth. And something that I try to explain to my kids, and I think we should all really be aware of, is the makers of these video games want you to be a consumer of it, right? So they keep you on there longer, they'll make more money because of the ads. If they keep you on this website longer, they'll make more money. So everything is designed. A lot of these companies actually have psychologists who they consult with in order to figure out how to keep you involved with this and consume more of this specific thing. And so that's part of it. So it's designed to do that.
I think the biggest thing I deal with is just access. I mean, the kids have too much access to each other. There's no safe place anymore. Used to be, you could go home, but if you're not monitoring your students or your child's phone, those kids that are having problems with the school can keep coming at them, and they don't feel safe anywhere. So having that much access, you might trust your child, but do you trust all the children that have access to your child? I don't. So I think that is my biggest time consumption of mine, is students always getting access to the kids no matter where they go. So you have to monitor, if your child has a phone, you have to monitor that and keep them safe.
Amanda, did you want to shot at that too?
Yeah, I can just piggyback off of what Ms. Hilbert said. At school, they also have access. I mean, they have access all the time. We don't want this to look like it's just on the parents. It's at the school too. And I think we as a community have to get together and talk about what does this look like for our future, because they have the access at school. Whether they have a Google Note form and they're passing it to their friends through that, and then they're texting as well. At the elementary level, it might look a little different than what it looks like at middle school and high school. But they have access all day at school, and at home they have access. So a big challenge at the elementary level is stuff that's going on outside of school is now consuming our day at school. And then we have to sometimes contact law enforcement and they may be like, well, yeah, we've already heard about this. So it just continues. So something that happens on a Friday night, we hear about it, for example, today. We heard about an incident today that happened over the weekend and it took 4 hours of our time. So I think that's the most challenging part because now we're not able to get into get with the students to do proactive stuff because now we're having to do things that, take care of things that happen over the weekend.
Thank you. And so a really fun thing about being a moderator is you control the questions. Additionally, Mr. Beekline told me I could make any changes I wanted, so what you have prepared is probably not the same set of questions I'm asking. So it'll get really interesting. This one I also want to ask each of you or whomever would like to respond. What is one piece of practical advice you would offer to caregivers regarding technology use? And you can speak personally and professionally.
I have a 6th grader, so I'm at the precipice of what some of you are already going through ahead of me. And I was just talking about this. If I could let every parent understand screen time, not how much time, but the app screen time to monitor your kids' devices, I would want all of you to know that. If you understand that, they can't download apps without your permission. They can't do things on their phone unless you allow it. And you can slow roll the whole digital world to them the best you can, as opposed to just handing them the phone and saying, good luck. So that's my thing. Understand that you have control over that and utilize it.
I think one of the most important things is to have very open and honest conversations with youth about, look, this is a tool, just like so many other things in life, right? There are a lot of great things that can be accomplished with this. I mean, for my field, telemedicine during COVID, patients still had access to healthcare because of telemedicine. So there's a lot of things there. You know, pilots can do a lot of simulation training in, you know, through computers, right? So there's so many wonderful uses of this. But there are so many horrible uses of it as well, and it can hurt you if you don't use it properly. So I think that's one of the biggest things, and really limiting it, right? Because if you're spending 40 hours a week playing, I don't know, Minecraft, or I don't know what all the games are, you know, what else could you have been doing with that 40 hours of your life right there this past week? You know, that's a lot of lost time participating in the real world that you were in some other really not real zone or non-reality, really, you would say. But another thing too is you know, screen time is a great place to start, but most often by high school they will outsmart you. There are apps that they can get around all of the screen time limitations. And even the Life 360, there are apps and things you can download where they can't track you anymore, or you can't track them anymore. But you know, have to make firm boundaries and expectations. This is a privilege for you to have this phone, and you have to show me that you can use it responsibly to earn more trust. If not, it's gone. And you know, before my teenager, I'm telling you that boy on there that was like, "Who's gonna watch me, Mom? Haha, she's not smart enough to do that." Yeah, I've been in that place too. So you know, if they, you know, you hide the phone somewhere and then they use their little watch to ping it and find it. Well, okay, so now it goes to my office and it gets locked in a drawer and you don't have the security code to get in there. It's gone. You've lost it, right? Sometimes you have to just really set that boundary and be very firm with it, because they will try to get around it. Just do your best, right? And be really open and honest with them about it. So especially like what they were saying in the video, that the one young lady that was having issues with bullying, and that she was able to come to her parent and ask for help when she needed it. I would
would say, as parenting, obviously it's difficult. We try to monitor what they're eating. We try to make sure they're making good choices as far as nutrition. But I think my advice would be make sure we understand their media diets. You know, when I say media diets, what are they consuming? We would not let them sit and consume and through repetition the same foods. You know, pizza and cookies and soda every day, all day long, and that repetition. So media diets should be the same way as well. You should be making sure that they're making healthy choices, that their consumption patterns are promoting pro-social behaviors, looking at more opportunities to connect. Outside of the use of technology, so teaching some of those pro-social empathy type of behaviors, so that when they're online and they are being confronted with some decisions that they have to make, if they're going to share, if they're going to participate, they have a skill set that has been modeled for them. The expectations when they're online, how do you respond? I hear students constantly say, well, why are you getting me in trouble? So-and-so's doing it, so it's okay. That's a bystander effect. I said, just because everyone's doing it doesn't make it okay. You chose to participate in that, and there's a disconnect there of understanding just because group is doing it doesn't give you the right to do it. It is not a positive choice for you. Understanding positive choices, understanding empathy, and understanding what the consequences are when we choose to engage in things that hurt others. That are harmful to others. And then having alternative activities. I think, in the parental involvement piece, I'm probably guilty too, especially when busy. It's easy when we're on the go to kind of give them something, just to watch or this and kind of pass that responsibility off. But it is important to make sure that you're compensating for that, having opportunities to have that dialogue, if that's from maybe some of your juveniles. I know I still see high school kids playing cards and Uno at lunch, and that makes my heart happy because they're not on their phone hiding out watching a YouTube video or watching some type of social media app. They're playing cards, board games, so I kind of encourage it. I'll go around, watch them playing euchre. It's just giving some of those human interactions, those opportunities to connect from like human to human, to learn those social skills and kind of thrive in that environment, not always be stuck behind their screen. So that would be my advice, knowing your students' media diet, modeling, teaching more of those empathy skills so they can make hard decisions when faced with them, and understanding consequences for their actions.
That's going to be hard to follow up. Okay, I answered this a little different. I just said for all of us in this room, not just for our students, but also for us, we need to start disconnecting intentionally because we just scroll mindlessly. So my first thing, this is for me too, something that I'm going to be practicing, try going to the bathroom without scrolling on your phone. See how long it actually takes you to go to the bathroom. The second thing would be to challenge yourself to go an entire workday without your phone. At school, Mr. Ernie will tell you that I am someone who I don't like to use my phone at school. It's a liability thing for me. If I get students' names in my phone sent to me, I have to be very careful with that. It's been tough. Staff, I think, sometimes they don't like that because they want to be able to get a hold of me, but if it's an emergency, call the office. You will be able to find me. So try that for yourself. Third, power down an entire day and see what you accomplish, but better yet, see how you feel.
Okay, I don't have much of a professional answer like these people over here to my left. My professional opinion on cell phones and kids. Do we have high school parents here somewhere? Oh, okay, more than I thought. Good. High schoolers here? None? One? Okay, good. So, right. So my straight blunt answer is don't have them at all. No technology. I deal with the absolute most horrible things that you would ever imagine, and it all involves cell phones. Every case I take has cell phones involved. The innocent kids in the schools are getting sent things they didn't ask for, but they have, okay? And by laws and statutes and stuff, they are possessing criminal evidence, I guess. So they get roped into a lot of things too. And maybe they're not so innocent. Maybe they accepted it or what have you. But I see negative every single day, and it's always involving cell phones, communication with kids. They are doing things I would not even imagine I would be doing in high school. I mean, we're, I don't know, how do I put this so you can understand? I mean, 13-year-old, we're taking cases from elementary schools, okay? And they're doing things I've never done in my life, okay? It's getting really bad and it's getting really young. And the longer you keep them out of the social medias and my personal opinion is the better they will be. I'm not a doctor like a lot of these people are, but I deal with it every day, and it's always involving cell phones. I've got thousands of cell phones and evidence. Because if there's criminal evidence on a cell phone, I'm taking it, okay? And that might be the best thing. That might be an eye-opening experience for somebody. So, but yeah, that's my involvement with it. It's not a good one.
First, I want to tell you you have valuable input based on your lived experience. So number 1. 2, I want to try that again. If you're a high schooler, look down and hope I don't call on you. You might find a couple more that way. Huh? Wonderful. All right. And Detective Brescher, since we have you warmed up, this next one is for you specifically. So something that I thought was very interesting when I viewed the video for the first time was the comparison of substance use disorder and technology addiction. And as someone who works in that field, I'm very curious from your perspective, what do you see similar behaviors between the kiddos that you are having cases related to technology and those that you've seen of individuals with substance use disorder?
I don't know if I'm an expert in substance abuse either. That would be more of your ballpark. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, it's by watching the video, you saw that young boy or college-age boy, I guess, that was addicted to gaming, and it affected his life. Any type of addiction, obviously, that's going to affect your normal daily lives, and it's a negative effect on your normal daily lives. So obviously with substance abuse, that affects their normal daily lives because they can't stop, you know, using those substances. Sometimes you get you hear positive stories that they get help and whatever, but they gotta want help. They gotta understand what this is causing around them. I guess some eye-opening experiences or somebody coming to Jesus moments or what have you. But I mean, it was the exact same thing. Substance abuse and being addicted to these cell phones, exact same mentality. So.
You might elaborate with the access to staff for purchasing. That could add to that, just how they get access to drugs. It's more readily available based on the various apps on their phones. Students can get access to drugs pretty easily, to be honest, through some of the various Snapchat, different features and apps that they can utilize and make those connections outside of school. They try to make those connections in the school. We try to eliminate that as best we can, but unless someone's monitoring that, obviously we're not monitoring Snapchat 24 hours a day, you know. So we're going to do ring around the chairs and all kinds of fun things. But yes, I think that arousal, not just still the question, but just to help kind of building out a little bit on the Snapchat thing, but we are seeing more purchasing, more distribution through the use of technology, more connections being made in the building. We try to monitor that on cameras. Students, especially with nicotine, they often have other students caring for them. So vaping devices and so forth, they'll just pass off throughout the day. So if they feel like Mr. Mock and I are hot on their trail, I'll watch some camera footage if I know that there's a possible usage issue with the group, and you can see these exchanges trying to occur in the building. They'll text each other to different bathrooms to meet up, that kind of thing. So use of the apps and different features of their technology does make access to substances more readily available. And I would say even the arousal state from that instant gratification and that primitive part of the brain. Students want to avoid pain, so that pain avoidance that comes with being ostracized or feeling like they are being left out or don't belong to a group. So that influences behavior, that influences emotion. So out of just pain avoidance, not wanting to feel pain of being rejected, students react differently and have different emotional reactions because of that. That often will get them in some situations that they typically may have not put themselves in had they not had access to technology or other features that they can't control or don't have the good skills to monitor and regulate. I promise I'll stop talking.
No, you're fine. I love open-ended questions exactly for that reason, because by asking, I was thinking about parallel behaviors, right? What they talked about, where kids are ignoring other responsibilities and they're being enraged whenever their technology is taken away. But you took that a step further and also talked about how technology kind of aids that substance use behavior. So that was good. All right, Dr. Norton, I'm coming to you next. So a couple questions for you. I just wanted you to speak a little bit about how screen time changes the developmental situation for kiddos' brains, as well as what age you feel like what a good age is to give a kiddo a device.
So, there's a lot of different research right now into, I say, gaming and technology screen time. Basically, there's a lot of solid data that very much screen time before the age of 2 can have some very negative impacts on brain development. So, other than FaceTiming grandma, who's out of town, that's actually a social interaction. It's not as good as in person, but it's a nice substitute to at least be able to chat with grandma, right? So under the age of 2, really absolutely limited screen time. And then between the ages of 2 and 6, outside of school time, they really should not have more than an hour a day of screen time, and it needs to be really well monitored. One of the biggest impacts that you will see and kind of negative impact on brain development and brain circuitry is violent gaming, any type of violent gaming, especially what we call like first-person violent gaming. So if you're the one doing the violence, committing the violence against other people. So there's actually a significant change in the brain circuits that are functioning and lighting up and active during those events and for quite a while afterward. And there's pretty solid evidence that empathy and emotional regulation and several other areas are very negatively impacted with violent video games. I wouldn't recommend even that adults play violent video games. It's you're really rehearsing in your mind these acts. So really don't think it's a good thing for our brains. But and kind of circling back, part of the answer too is some of the addiction question is what actually happens, and Phil, take the microphone if I'm getting too deep in neuroscience, okay? But it's called the striatum that's involved in reward. And so let's say if someone starts using heroin, right, they're gonna have all that dopamine release and all the feel-good chemicals in their brain, and then the next time they're gonna actually need a bigger dose of that to get the same pleasure out of it, and it keeps going and going and going. And actually how the neurons react to that is that area actually shrinks. So it's because of all that overstimulation, it's actually harder to attain that level of pleasure. So you heard that college student that was like, okay, I game till 1, I game till 3, I game till 5. And so his brain was wanting more and more pleasure until he was totally giving up on sleep and nutrition and all what he needed to do to function. So that's a really significant thing. And what's different about a child's brain is that, say I started playing some game and I was enjoying it until 1 a.m. Well, your frontal lobe is your manager, your personal manager, okay? By age 25, your personal manager should be fully developed. And so my manager will be like, at say 1 a.m., you know what? I gotta get up in 5 hours and go to work. Probably should turn this off, that's enough, right? So my frontal lobe will get me to do that. So if your frontal lobe and that manager is not developed, until age 25, then even a 16-year-old, right? How well will they be able to regulate themselves in that way? So that's where I think we, as the adults in their lives, need to say, look, this is a boundary that you need to set for yourself, and I'm going to help you to stay within the boundaries that you need to stay in to make sure you get enough sleep, eat, pass your classes, etc., and have a good life. So, was there a second part of the question? Okay. So I very much do not think any elementary child should have any type of cell phone, iPad that's their own, what have you. Now, if we're playing ABC and, working on something on mom's iPad or dad's iPad, what have you, with time limits, okay, but their own device, they're really not responsible enough to have that. It's a very powerful tool. Would you put your 5th grader in the driver's seat of a car? No, they're not mature enough. They don't have really the skills to use such a valuable tool at that age. I think what can become very difficult is in middle school, nobody's going to come knock on your door, hey, can we go, I don't know, to such and such together. Nobody's going to knock on your door anymore, right? So you kind of get socially isolated if you don't have a cell phone. So, personally with our family, we usually we've given our oldest 2 phones at the middle of 7th grade with very clear expectations. We did the contract thing that they showed in the movie, and very limited access at that age, and then we typically let them, as they've proven themselves to be responsible, and they get, by the way, my 16-year-old will tell you I'm the worst mother on the face of the earth, because I will at any time, check any and all apps and messages, like unannounced, spot test on, what's going on, and drop in, and so he knows that. I think middle school, late middle school at the very earliest, really, until, and it's going to vary from child to child. My 8-year-old's pretty responsible, maybe more responsible than my 16-year-old sometimes, So it's going to vary from child to child, but I think that's the biggest thing, is how responsible are they? And then they are going to be tempted, right? There's so many things that are trying to pull them in, and to make sure that you've got their back and you're helping them to use it responsibly.
Thank you so much. So for the next question, we'll see who volunteers. But I would like to talk a little bit about, probably by age group, so maybe the different schools in the system, what the school is doing to address technology concerns, and what opportunities you see for partnership with the parents.
I'll say something, but it's probably not very popular, probably not much. Because the fact of the matter is, this is new to all of us. We're all parenting in the Wild West of cell phones and digital age, and we're learning as we go, and unfortunately our children are the guinea pigs. And we're not really going to know how this is going to end up for them, which is why you're probably here, because it scares you a little bit. So we're doing this. We're having conversations, but there's, from my understanding, no concerted program right now to have a partnership, and maybe this is the beginning of that conversation.
I appreciate your honesty.
At the elementary level, I know we've had a lot of conversations about what can we do to partner with families, to partner with our community, because we do all have to work together. And we don't want this to come off as the parents need to, because I'm a parent and I also need to. So it's one of those things where we all have to be in this together, whether we have small group chats after this, or we figure out a way to keep this conversation alive. We've got resources out there on your way out. It's called Wait Until 8th. Yes, you have to go online to look at this and scan your phones if you're promoting you to use your devices. But it has really good information. Just whenever I'm thinking about oh yeah, it'd be all right if I had a phone, it reminds me why it's probably not okay for an elementary student to have a phone. And it also reminded me that there are phones out there that aren't smartphones. I actually didn't realize there still are phones that don't have access to the internet, which I'm grateful that I figured that out, because when my kids are in 8th grade, I hope to get them a cell phone. It's going to have text messages on there. And to be able to call. A lot of times we don't communicate calling and talking to people on the phone anymore, we text. And I think that's a skill that our students, our kids, my kids, all of us are kind of lacking. So we kind of need to like go backwards and teach them those skills. So yeah, that resource is great. Check it out online. They have a whole list of phones that you can get, and just stuff that you can follow at home to help you stay on the right path.
I would have to agree with Phil. There's still a definite need at the high school level. We try to implement policies to educate the students on healthy choices, implement some of that curriculum and some of our more elective courses to encourage positive behaviors, consequences of behaviors. And you know, the policy in itself is pretty strict. I mean, at Jasper High School, you know, if you're caught, you know, putting social media content out there, recording and posting, it's 3 days out of school suspension. It's a pretty significant disciplinary action if you are putting things out there. And I've educated students on this several times in my discipline approach. Yeah, you may be taking a selfie of yourself in classroom, but you may capture other people behind you that did not give you permission nor want to be posted in your social media account. And sometimes that opens up some dialogue on their social media page where other people begin to bully that student. Right? Oh, why you got so-and-so back there, haha, and then it becomes a whole negative experience for both parties. So just some education out there is the prevention piece. And I think as far as collaborating with parents, you know, the support from that angle, you know, helping the monitoring supervision. If a student's had a disciplinary action at school, don't allow them to bring their cell phone to school. They're probably they're gonna have some reaction to that, but it's gonna keep them safe at school because they don't have access to make those choices. And I know that's hard at a high school level. We have students with jobs, we have students that help transport, brothers and sisters, pickups. There's so many things to schedule, and we try to work alongside parents with that, but it does cause a lot of dysfunction in our day. And really our intention is student first. We're trying to keep them safe. We're seeing these kids, you know, just today, my experience, I can't get in, you know, elaborating on it, but I have a student first thing at 7:50 explaining an act of, you know, sexual exploitation. The picture I got out there that they didn't think was going to resurface. It's resurfaced, and now they're getting some threats, you know, on social media that someone's going to link that, and there's payment, and there's, you know, there's just some things going on. Trying to figure out, is this a false account? Bring an SRO in to kind of help us navigate that. What's our next steps? And so a lot of time working closely with my SRO to understand what the students' rights are, and then having those conversations. You know, our friends are online. The kiddo will identify friends online, but sometimes they don't even know their friend's last name. But they're sending intimate information, intimate pictures, intimate things that could be used to victimize them. So friends online are not always the same as friends in person. So when they're labeling them, just some education about boundaries would be important. So.
Take it to him so we don't have to do the chair dance again.
I actually would be interested to hear your thoughts, because I have so many various parents asking. I have some parents who want their phone on that child because with school violence across the country, it makes them feel safe knowing their child has a phone, to all the way, I don't want my child around cell phones ever. And so as a school, it makes it very difficult to create policy because I understand both sides of that. I mean, I completely understand both sides of that. So talking about how schools are going to deal with that when we're getting such a wide range of feedback from parents, I'm curious what the parents have to say about that, because I would love to hear input.
Yeah, if anybody would like to touch on that or ask any of your questions. I know we ran a little longer than I intended on answering some of the pre-typed ones, but if anybody has any questions they would like to ask, now is your time.
I'll just give my opinion on Mr. Culver's. My opinion is if they've got a phone in front of them, they're going to be distracted. They're not going to, you know, listen to what the teacher has to say. Just like I said on the movie, my child may not have his phone out, but this buddy next to him may have. And so he's kind of distracted. What's he listening to? You know, So I like the idea that you do put them in the caddies or the cubbies, whatever, whenever you first walk in. Because it is, I mean, I'm a parent, but it is nice to, get a message to your child, that they can get at lunchtime and respond back to you or something. So I like the idea that they can have the phone, but not in the, not with them during the class time. So the caddies, as soon as you walk in, I know they say they put them in.
But I'm going to challenge that too. They've gotten smart, and now they have 2 and 3 cell phones.
I'm a naive parent.
Yeah.
I never would have thought about that.
Just
Never would have thought
but
that.
they
I mean, that's true, but
Yeah, you have younger kids.
obviously I'm not a teacher. To me, I would think, I'm just thinking, kid have their phone out, but, I don't know.
Yeah, they found love.
Yeah, I'm totally not. It's my opinion.
So it sounds like the general consensus is if we can get those kiddos to use their powers for good. Wonderful. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I'm just kind of wondering if it would be helpful if, so like, I don't know much about all of the parental controls. Luckily, my husband's very well versed in how to put Screenagers in place for our kiddos' cell phone. But I honestly don't really know much on how to do all of that. And so I'm wondering if the schools or the community somehow, before a school year kicks off, have a have a course for parents to actually learn how to do some of these parental controls. Because sure, you can go to YouTube and get some tips and tricks, but it's like, what kind of phone do you have? Go here to do it on this time. I mean, it's kind of hard to navigate. And like I said, if I didn't have, a tech savvy husband, I don't know that my 7th grader would have a phone. I'd probably just say no, I don't know how to keep it safe. And, which I know Officer Brusher, that's probably what you want to hear, but, I mean, logistically, it is nice to be able to say, reminder, I'm picking you up after school today, and when you go to kids' locker, or kids' phone on his locker at the end of the day. He's like, oh yeah, I don't ride the bus today. So it's just kind of nice, but there's just so many, I just wonder if we can, and then so we can teach our parents how to really make these phones safe. Not saying that's fully the school's responsibility, but the community coming together and saying, offering this, then is it possible for schools to put a policy like cell phones are welcome, but they have to meet these kind of expectations? Like, I can't really think of examples, but okay, I was just going to give you a for instance. We found something that we didn't have safe. A picture was airdropped to my son from a source he had no idea where it came from.
It was very inappropriate, and I, like Dr. Nord, unannounced drop-ins on his phone, right? I'm sure he was horrified that I found it, because he doesn't even know where it came from. And, that was a big uproar between us, because I was like, what on earth are you looking at? He's like, I wasn't. And, sure enough, my husband was like, this actually is a thing. Kids can just airdrop content to anyone nearby who they're picking up on their Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or whatever the heck. But that's horrifying, because it's like, my son has heard me say a million times, you can't unsee something once you've seen it. And, likely that event happened at school. And so it's just, I don't know. So I'm wondering if we can just teach ourselves how to really lock down these phones so that they're safe. And then schools maybe being able to piggyback off of that and saying, like, now that we're offering how to load these phones up with safety measures, phones can come to school if, and I don't know, I know that would be so hard to manage, but I just feel like if some sort of policy isn't put in place with some safety measures on these devices, I can just see the problem getting worse and worse, even though we're all trying our best to stop it. So I don't know, I'm sorry, I don't really, that's my idea. I have really no idea how to make it happen, but that's my input.
I'd like to summarize. So you're advocating for education and then something similar to the contract that was given in the film, but school-based.
Yeah, essentially, like, here's the deal, you can, your student or your child can bring their device to school if these measures are put in place for safety. Yeah.
I saw an eager hand over here. I'm gonna run in.
My mom puts lockdown things on my phone. I can't play on it at school. She locks it down so I can't go on anything until I get on the bus or something. And then she locks down all the other stuff. If she doesn't want me on it, she looks on my phone and she locks it down. And then it shuts down at 9 o'clock. And I'm allowed to have it in my room. My charger's not in my room. So she's like, well, are you going to plug it in tonight? And then if I don't, it just dies.
Mom, sneaky. What are your thoughts on those kind of lockdown and keep your charger in a common area type of strategies?
Sometimes I'm in the bathroom for too long and she just locks it down.
All right, then we go back to the strategy of bathroom trips without a cell phone.
I did that once. I called my friend and I had to go to the bathroom, so I left her out there. And it took me 2 seconds to get out. And then when I go into the bathroom, it takes me 45 minutes.
Thank you for your input. We do only have a couple minutes and I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Do we have any final thoughts before I let you go right at 8 p.m.? I'm ready. Let's hear it.
We're ready.
My mom puts away my screen time. She uses an app on the settings app, which allows her to track what days are allowed to be on it. And she also takes away during the week. Most of the time forgets to give me it back during the weekend. So when my friends text me about something important, I can't look at it because my mom just locks it down and I can't see it. So,
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a follow-up question?
Yeah.
These important things that you're missing. Can you give me an example?
my friend wanted to ask if he could come over to my house, but that was sent 2 weeks ago before I was able to see it. So I couldn't respond to him in time because when I did respond to him, he was busy. So I couldn't let him come over to my house because my mom took away my electronics for 2 months. And she always loses them when she hides them.
Well, I think the moral of the story there is mom is trying her best. And that is what we are all working on doing. So I want to thank you all for coming out to the event tonight and let you know that this sounds like it is the start of the conversation, not the end. So we really appreciate your participation. Ooh, it's the end of a 12-hour day and it is showing. So thank you again so much for coming out, and I invite you all to get home safely. And I can't wait to see where this conversation takes us.
Thank you.